looks like a handful of community members. You had about 10 different contributors on each one and 40 overall. What's the next steps for this?
I'd love to see some more of the collectors of ancient assets take a look at the project, and if they're interested, pick up a collector token or a hardcore token if you're interested in the Rude Relics project. And so the idea is to get a really good distribution of these monthly relics that the artists have a stake in into collectors' hands, and really start to build up trading and the buying and the selling. We've essentially created like a marketplace on the site, which is really cool.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Another fun and exciting episode. We're here with my boy Ernest, who we got to hang out at NFT NYC. I almost forgot what event that was. Man, it was fun to finally meet you. Ernest is on the Doge Party Foundation and the creator of two cool projects, which might be slept on, or I should say overlooked, Modern Relics and Rude Relics. And as I was discussing with him before, he was actually the creator of Trippy Tokens, which was a Doge Party project that I had come across, man, that had to be like, 2 years ago or something like that when I was first exploring it. And then it turns out it was you the whole time. So Ernest, thanks for joining the party.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely fantastic episode. We actually just recorded about 2 weeks ago on a Monday, having a little Doge Party fiesta, a little check-in, a little bit more movement than the last time, especially with Doge stamps. I know the Doge Party Foundation has invited some new people onto the board, and just more attention around Dogecoin and Dogecoin NFTs together. So amazing times. And let's just start straight to the beginning. For most that probably aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about Ernest.
Sure. Yeah, I just spent the last couple of years, and probably about the year and a half, actually, to be more specific, working with Doge Party Foundation. I really started to get into creating and exploring the NFT or version of NFTs that Counterparty and specifically Doge Party offer through the relaunch of Doge Party back in, I think it was October of 2021. And so that was really my entry into this space, truly beginning of my time. So I haven't been doing it that long, but really dove in head first and grabbed the bull by the horns and had a lot of fun doing it so far. So that's kind of the short version of the story, I suppose.
Well, I'm sure everyone who's listening is like, how did this man end up on the Doge Party Foundation? Have you been in crypto for a while, or did you just somehow manage to finagle yourself as one of the Twitter anons who's just showing a lot of interest for NFTs on Dogecoin?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story because I got into the community, the Doge Party community, when the relaunch happened, and really became very active in the community at that time. And there was a effort to form the foundation at that time, which was going to have an election shortly after the relaunch. So the election process began in November and concluded at the end of December of 2021 to form the 2022 foundation. And it's not something that I had any thought at the time that I would even be doing. But the announcement came out that they were going to be kind of soliciting people to either nominate themselves or to have others nominate individuals to run for this election. And it's 5 positions that are elected, 5 director positions, and they're from the community. They're actually called community director positions. There are 3 founders of the foundation, which started the reboot, and then the 5 directors that are selected from the community and voted in by the community. And through the discussions that were happening at the time, there were a lot of unique individuals that were going to, be pursuing that, nominating themselves, and going for those positions. And one of the things that I kind of noticed that, I was looking across the field of individuals that were interested in going to those positions is that there weren't really any that, had the background that I had and the way of looking at things that I had. So I thought that, it'd be kind of interesting because I bring a different perspective to the space. And I thought that it would be valuable to have somebody with my background and expertise join the foundation. So I threw my name in the ring and was fortunate to receive enough votes to get on the first foundation last year. So that was kind of how things started off.
Yeah, congratulations. So there is 2 shows on here, 2 different years of different leaders, and it looks like you're the only returning person from.
That's right.
Yeah, so you have the 3 founding members. You have Javier Verona, which is John Villar's brother, Jeremy Johnson, which is J-Dog, Ryan Baptiste. I'm not sure who that is.
He goes by Xer.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
Around too.
Makes sense then. And so for the first one, Dogfather, most that listen to the show know Theo, who's a rare puppy scientist. And you got Ernest and Daniel Nassif and Christian Burns. I'm not sure who that is, although probably if you show me their Twitter profile picture and whatever their handle is, might make a lot more sense. And then this year, it's you, Sean Leary, who was the original Rare Pepe scientist. G Money, I'm unsure. Natilda, I believe, is like an early Doge Party creator, and then Cryptoshainer, who's a Rare Pepe artist.
Yeah, you've got it pretty much covered with the description there.
Hey, when you start when you interview people on the show, especially from the historical space, and dive in, you really begin to know all the personalities. I was lucky to meet Sean and yourself down at NFT NYC. That was a lot of fun. So tell us a little bit more about the foundation then. Like what do you guys do? I'm sure let's say there's a skeptic out here who's looking at Doge Party in general, and they're like, it still doesn't have a lot of traction. It does for the early builders, but what type of what's the mission, and what type of things is the foundation trying to attack and maybe approve, so that Doge Party is something that is widely considered between everybody who looks at Dogecoin NFTs, and they can consider it, or they can consider Doge Party.
Yeah, the foundation was formed when the reboot happened, and when that was going on, we had a second burn, and it was spelled deliberately incorrectly, BERN, as opposed to BURN, a burn where Dogecoin is swapped effectively for XDP, which is the equivalent of XCP on Counterparty, as essentially the token that allows you to move things and create things and do things on the platform, a number of different functions it performs. And in order to get the platform back up, we needed to put XDP back in users' hands and create new XDP through the BERN burn process, which put all the Dogecoin that was generated from the burn process into the foundation fund. And this was a wallet address that was set aside for use by the foundation strictly, and for development of the platform as well. That's the main function of the foundation, is to essentially assign use of the foundation funds, which were generated from the burn in 2021, and it's being used for development purposes and sustaining the platform over time. And that's what we spend most of our time doing, is figuring out what do we want to do, what things need to be developed for the platform to bring it up to the next level, and what things do we need to make sure we're doing to keep the platform alive over time. And that's, if I could wrap up the primary function of the foundation, that's what it is. That's what it's for.
On dogeparty.net, which appears to be the main website, suggested use of community funds: 35% the developer fund, 25% marketing and promotion, 20% exchange listings, 10% founder compensation, and 10% legal fund. So moving in then as your second year on the board, what is I would say, first, what is the biggest concern for Doge Party moving forward, and what is like the biggest thing that needs to be addressed? At least, how the Doge Party Foundation is viewing it to, I guess, encourage more Doge Party participation.
Yeah, I think that last comment is really what is the biggest focus for the foundation, and finding out what we can do to enhance and expand the user base is probably our biggest, where we spend most of our time and what we spend most of our time thinking about, because it's a relatively small project in the grand scheme of things. And we have a great history. We have an incredible community, but it's rather small in scale. And so that's probably where we spend a lot of time and thought, is what can we do to expand the user base and to bring awareness to the platform. And that's kind of like a marketing function, which isn't really something that we're set up to either execute or to fund necessarily. So a lot of the quote unquote marketing comes from the community itself. It's really what drives the growth of the platform. And aside from that, we have some initiatives that we look at. For instance, in 2022, we ran a hackathon that that produced some interesting results that we funded the prizes for. And so we just look at things like that, which we can do to get some awareness out there and to encourage development on the platform.
The Rare Doge directory, which I've pulled up, I believe is one of the most kept secrets in the meme economy. It's really just a play on Rare Pepes, but has tons of contributions. Already on season 20, I remember when this thing started. Quite an amazing. I'm assuming this Series 1 card one that has a question mark, is that reserved for Elon Musk, I'm assuming?
Yeah, that's a good question. You'd have to ask J-Dog. This is actually his project. It was spawned off of and spun off of the Rare Pepe, the original Rare Pepe project. And that's kind of what the model was for this. And I've actually made a bunch of cards for the Rare Doge project. And there's actually a companion project called the Rare Reject project, which you can find the link to right on the page there as well. So essentially, if you don't get into the Rare Doge directory, you automatically get into the Reject directory. And there's it's quite interesting how the two have a pretty distinctly different artwork in them. And some might say, there's a lot of rejects that should have been Rare Doge and vice versa. So it's interesting to hear the opinions and viewpoints of people viewing the different artwork that's on either project.
They say in crypto the best type of marketing is number go up technology. It's a little bit tough when you're kind of on this like nascent platform that has some technical hurdles or some more fundamental understanding to participate. I know at Emblem Vault, we're working on trying to do a curated collection when we make it down that way to hopefully, add some more exposure, and maybe Doge stamps is something that helps with it. Tipping, I know, was a thing back in 2014 on Twitter where you could tip in Doge Party tokens. So hopefully that comes together, especially as Dogecoin may be integrated into Twitter. But I do have open the projects page on dogeparty.net, and a handful of these are your projects. Moving down the board, Trippy Tokens was your first project. And yeah, it's a psychedelic NFTs on Twitter, dude. Who doesn't love psychedelics in a world of people who live on the internet? Tell us a little bit of detail about this project, just the basics of why do psychedelic NFTs on Doge Party? Did you have a lot of success, and are you still continually building on this project?
Yeah, it's open. Submissions are open, so we're carrying on. It was formed, I think, back in January of 2022 is when it kind of took off, when I first formed it. And I just love psychedelic art. I love trippy art. I've seen a lot of trippy art over the years. It's just been really one of my favorite styles of artwork. It's just so intricate and vivid, and really makes you look at the world a little differently. I just think that's just the neatest thing. And so on my own enjoyment of that style of art was the reason why I started this project. And I saw a lot of trippy art on Twitter. There's a lot of artists doing that type and that style of art on Ethereum. There's a lot of collections out there like that. And I really didn't find, I searched quite a bit and I couldn't find a project or a collection aside from what you find on OpenSea in any of the other platforms that exist. So I thought it was an opportunity to get that style of artwork in front of people as a collection, as a project specifically oriented for it. And, you know, it's like I said, it's been a small, sleepy little project, but the individuals, the users, and the artists that are, you know, within the project are very enthusiastic, and they produce some really interesting stuff. So it's been a really big enjoyment for me to you know, run the project and kind of manage it.
I have to say, I love psychedelic art and just psychedelics in general. What I'm seeing, yeah, right. I've dabbled with my fair share to open up your mind to the outer boundaries of your soul, per se. What did you take away from doing this experiment? Just in general, what would you say was your biggest learning or your biggest lesson from creating a project on your own that maybe didn't have, you know, the overwhelming amount of success that people like with something like Pepe Coin, but also comes with its own subtle learnings along the way?
Yeah, I would say the biggest takeaway for me, and it's actually been something that's helped me learn how to work with the projects for the newer projects that I've launched, and that is that marketing a crypto project, an NFT project, is really difficult, and attracting users and artists to a project is not easy, and you really have to put a lot of work and time into it. It doesn't just happen on its own, unless you get really lucky, I suppose. But yeah, that's not really the case in most of the instances. So I would say that that's probably been the biggest takeaway for me, and figuring out how to reach people and to work within, especially within the context of a platform like Doge Party or even Counterparty, which are both very similar. It's just a different approach than anything else. Not that I have this vast reservoir of experience, but that's been my biggest takeaway from it.
It looks like our Twitter Spaces was about 10 days ago from the time it's recording on May 1st, and we're recording this on May 10th. But now moving on to, you know, one of the main reasons that I wanted to have you on this conversation, outside of loving, you know, Dogecoin and Doge Party, love the memes. You've brought something to market that is influenced by kind of the niche that we've hung out for a long time, which is historical NFTs, and then wraps, you know, two of these innovative platforms together of Counterparty and Doge Party, and I've created a new project about it called Modern Relics, and then we'll talk about Rude Relics afterwards. Give us the 411, Ernest. What is Modern Relics?
Yeah, it's very simply putting new art on old tokens. That's kind of the easiest way for me to wrap up into one statement what the project is about. More specifically, it's actually multiple projects in one. There's two platforms. We have a Doge Party and Counterparty component to Modern Relics and Rude Relics. So it's actually 4 projects running all together when you combine them all. But what this is a collection of assets that were created in 2014 that are named, right? There's actually on the main page, if you scroll down a little further towards the middle of the page, you'll find there it is, the distribution schedule, which lists every one of the assets that we have in our calendar that we're going to be releasing. And we're running essentially a design contest for each one of those. So the first one happened for the collector token, and that's collector on Counterparty and Doge Party. And there were a number of submissions for each of those assets to attach artwork to them. That you can see the winner there was that one. And there were a whole bunch, if you keep scrolling down, there's a bunch of sub assets, each with its unique artwork that was created to submit to try to win to be the one that got their art attached to that main collector token. And what makes this project different is that when artwork submitted for the main token, whether it's was collector or the monthly ones that come after it, every artist gets an asset created, or if they win, they get their artwork attached to that 2014 asset. So we're essentially trying to create like an ecosystem of both main assets and the 2014 asset that art's attached to, along with sub assets, which is a feature that I can't think of any project that uses them in this way, but we're really trying to, make use of the sub asset feature in both Counterparty and Doge Party platforms. And what this does is allows the artist to get something no matter what they submit. If they win or quote unquote win or not, they get a sub asset created. And because it's attached to that main 2014 asset, there's some connection to it. There's some value, I think, to having a sub asset created under that main 2014 monthly asset. So as you're looking down the list, you can see a whole bunch of names like Viper, like Romance, like Voodoo, and so on and so forth, that my partner J-Dog and I, we formed this project together. We actually looked through thousands of asset names and mutually selected all of these names that we thought were great for art. That's essentially what the reason was that we picked them. And so far, so good. Actually, the submissions we've got for both rounds of the first two rounds have been pretty incredible. I'm blown away by some of the stuff that's come in. You can see them right there. And we actually set the website up so that you can see live as stuff gets submitted in the different the pages that are on the site. So it's really exciting to see what the artists come up with for these themed tokens. And then we have a lot of fun selecting the winners, of course, as well, because it's quite amazing what the creativity is that these artists bring to the table.
Yeah, the art is fantastic. It's been evolving at an exponential rate in terms of the complexities and the details that are intertwined with these tokens. I love that no matter what project you go to between Doge Party and Counterparty, and now it's even starting to go to Ethereum, there's always some part of the rare Pepe principles that's always wrapped into it, whether it's using something here like Relicash, which we'll dive into here in a second, right, which is similar to Pepe Cash, or you have kind of the submission, decentralized submission mechanism for selecting different types of art that are, kind of stamped into the collections. Gotta love it here. So it says purchase relics. This page contains a list of modern relics which are available for purchase, including the main collector token, the art submission token, Relicash, and the individual modern relic tokens along with their associated sub assets. So I'm clicking here. I'm going to click here on Relicash. Is this also a vintage token, or is this something that you guys created?
No, it's actually the one that's not a vintage token. That
would have been perfect.
And I had some ideas for what we could have done to incorporate a vintage token, but the Relicash ended up being a good name for our, submission token named asset that we were going to use for, kind of funding things to come in to the project.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to that page here in a second. How many tokens have been contributed to this project? Actually, on the last episode with J-Dog, he said that when Counterparty had first launched, he wrote a bot and claimed like 15,000 tokens or something like that. So I can only imagine the amount of supply that both of you are sitting on.
Yeah, it was a substantial list. I don't know the exact number, but I can tell you that I know I put my eyeballs on definitely thousands and thousands of names that J-Dog had in his wallet address. I think he had some other ones that I didn't even look through. But it was an expansive list that we'd spent some time sorting through and making the selections. I actually developed the whole process to do that, which was really, really thorough. And it made sure that we really picked our favorite names that we were going to pick for the project. It was really tough to select a list of what ended up being 20 assets for either Counterparty and Doge Party, 40 total, because we really didn't want to have the project run for too long, and we wanted to give enough room for each monthly release for artists to work on stuff. So we ended up coming up with like a 24-month timeline that seemed to make the most sense.
And it appears that this project actually was just started in April 2023, so we're barely a month into it. So if you're an artist, it says how can you participate? Artists may submit artwork for any modern Relic token in the project at any time during the project. All you need is one Relicash, which the supply was like 999,000 roughly. Each month, the winner of the contest will receive 25 of the 100 modern Relic asset that they submitted for. To keep, sell, and to trade, the remaining 75 monthly modern Relic supply will be distributed by the project to the collector holders. So basically here, just to summarize it, up here's the collector token. If you hold the collector token, then you'll receive one token per month, correct? And if you're the artist, you can submit an artwork to any of the vintage tokens. And if you win, then those tokens are out of 100 supply. The artist gets 25, and then the other 75 remaining are distributed to those who hold the collector token of Counterparty or Doge Party or both.
That is exactly right. And as the project goes on, of course, we're not expecting to sell or distribute all of the collector tokens immediately. It's a lot. It's a big ask to have 75 collectors buy into this project. So what we're planning to do is to keep track of what collector tokens get purchased over time and do catch-up distributions of the monthly relics. So if somebody bought, let's say, a collector a year from now, they'll get a catch-up distribution once they purchase it, and the project will not hold on to the monthly relics. Its intent is not to, hoard assets. That's not what we're here to do. It's just going to take a while for us to kind of get up to speed. So that's part of the process.
I can only imagine trying to manage all of those tokens. So, and then I'll let you go ahead. So basically this project is more for fun, right? Experimentation, also putting a lot of these vintage assets to use, because there is a collector's base in the historical collector community that likes that a token was minted on 2014, 15, 16, or whatever may be, even with no art attached. Although there are some artists where if the art wasn't attached originally, that's basically a huge no-no for them. Yeah,
and we really make that very explicit on the site, and that this project is taking old tokens that were named and created in 2014 and just totally retooling them in 2022 and 2023. We've reset the token from a divisible to a non-divisible asset, which was a major change, and created a supply of 100 for each of the monthly tokens, and then locked it. And now we're adding R2. So there's a lot of modifications happening in present day from a vintage asset that was originally created. And essentially the value there, at least the value proposition, is that they were created a very long time ago, and now we're making them something that is, appealing to today's collector, and that's the idea behind it.
If I had to turn this into a metaphor, it would be very similar to taking a vintage vehicle, let's say like a 1960s Mustang, and basically gutting the entire thing outside of the frame, stripping the frame of the color, and then going in and rebuilding it. But the two things of a vintage token that you can't change is the provenance, the date that it was created, and the name of the asset, which would be very similar, right, to completely refurbishing a car, because you still have the frame, which would be the token. The frame was created that day. And the type of vehicle, right, the name of the vehicle, the Mustang, that also cannot change as well. Does that sound right?
That's a great analogy for it, and I couldn't think of a better way to phrase it.
So what are you, just personally, like, what are your thoughts and collector preference when it comes to historic tokens on Counterparty and Doge Party. Do you understand the requirement for some that an image link needed to be added upon the time of creation or one of those early days to have the value? Do you not really care? Kind of give us your personal opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the pool of those assets that were did have artwork attached to them at that time is really small, and obviously that's written into the record. I mean, you can't go back and change that, and those assets exist, and they are what they are. I think that, because we're not trying to be that, this is not what the project's about, and we're trying to find a purpose for these assets in the modern age. I think that, knowing that and having been very, forthright about that objective of the project, adding value to an existing token by putting new artwork on it is its own thing. And I think that in time, there'll be some, value attributed to that. Or not. I mean, I hope it will, obviously, but it's, it certainly is a gamble. It's a risk. But in the end, we've been putting a ton of work, a lot of hours went into putting this project and building it. And so I hope that people out there will recognize that and see what it is and appreciate what we've done. And that's my hope and my expectation.
It looks like you've had about 45 submissions in about a month. So pretty good, right? Comparative that it's like a pretty small community already to begin with.
Yeah. And we're running into some significant challenges, in the last few weeks, especially with the, changes that are going on and the incredible increase in Bitcoin transaction fees. And one of the things that's been very different about running this project is that we do have another platform to work with. Doge Party is super fast. It's super cheap. If you use the web wallet on Doge Party, you can send a transaction for 0.01 Doge, which is a tiny fraction of a penny. And so I immediately thought, as we're looking for new submissions for the upcoming round of relics for June that are coming up for Greed and the other one, that, we have a problem. Like, people aren't going to be able to submit artwork for the counterparty assets because we have Relicash submissions for both counterparty and Doge Party. So my concern was like, hey, we're gonna run into a roadblock here because nobody's gonna be able to afford to, send any transactions to burn or destroy their Relicash to make a submission. Which, by the way, if you're in our Telegram, the Relicash is given away for free. If anybody posts artwork for the upcoming submissions, whatever those assets are, we've been posting giveaways that, you post your art and you get a Relicash for free so you can submit it. So we really haven't been collecting or making any money on this project at its outset. But back to my point, so I kind of had this discussion with J-Dog and I was like, what are we going to do? Because we're kind of paralyzed right now in this one half of the project. And he's like, oh, I thought of that and built a redundancy into the site and into the submission form when I wrote it, so that if somebody accidentally or intentionally, whatever the case may be, burned Doge Party Relicash and submitted it for counterparty assets, that the system would automatically check for that and process it without any hiccups. And I was like, man, that's amazing. So we have like redundancy built into our system, just, as luck would have it in this case. And I'm sure, we could have coded it and updated it if needed to as well. But I was so delighted because I was able to go out to the community, and one of the more recent tweets that we sent out was like, hey guys, hey, Bitcoin fees got you down. Don't worry, come over to, Modern Relics and Rude Relics. We've got you covered because you can just submit your artwork using Doge Party for nothing basically. And we're going to carry on. Like, I may not be able to send assets out, distributions and stuff. We're going to have to hold off on those because, we just don't have the thousands of dollars to spend on transaction fees right now. So collectors might have to wait a little while until things settle down. But that's like not the worst thing in the world, at least in my opinion. And the project can just carry forward, and that's been the coolest side of this thing, that in light of the challenges that we have with Bitcoin fees today, I think that's just such a neat feature.
The collector token, from what I looked, is about 400 to 800, depending if you're going to Doge Party or Counterparty. So very affordable in terms of the world of crypto right now, paying $100,000 like you would for an ape. And this gives you residual tokens every month, and many of them potentially. So seems like a good deal. But now moving on to Rude Relics, and this captured my attention. I think it's quite funny the way that it's displayed, the way that it's told. I'm just going to read the first paragraph for those that are just listening. Rude Relics. You've landed at Rude Relics, a completely inappropriate collection of wild-ass motherfucking named tokens that were born in 2014 on the Doge Party Counterparty platforms. They have remained frozen in time like a bunch of jizz bags locked up like a sperm bank until now. It's time for them to wake up like a hungover hooker snorting coke off your coffee table at the crack of dawn. Sounds like a movie straight out of The Hangover, man. I could only imagine back in 2014 and 2015, those that are first introduced to the ability to name a token in a space that's built off of magic internet money. Think of Bitcoin in 2014. This is the first time really that it's ever happened that people can customize their token without having to create a blockchain. So one can theorize the wild minds of those that were in the depths of crypto in the early days and the types of names that they've attributed to these tokens.
There's quite a list of inappropriate token names that we sifted through, coming up with what we ended up with on this project list, and it was actually a lot of fun making the selections that we did for it. It is definitely not for everybody. This project is intended to really push the boundaries of what's acceptable without being extreme. I mean, we're not looking for anything, and it's actually stated right on the submission page. We do not want a list of certain things that are just obviously distasteful, but we're very happy to push the boundaries. I'm a fan of like cringe humor and just cringy things in general. It was fascinating to me. I feel like there's a lot of crypto artists in general, I should say, that have, the same viewpoint. I got to imagine that there's a lot more people like me out there that want to make and look at kind of edgy art like this. And so that's kind of where it came from and where the idea came from. So same process as far as how the tokens were selected for this project as with Modern Relics. They were all really selected. The name tokens were selected because they were ones that we felt would generate really interesting artwork, and that was the kind of driving factor behind picking them.
The first one, so instead of collector tokens, called the hardcore token. The first card on Counterparty that won the hardcore Naka. It's Naka bending over Vitalik. Bitcoin dominance remains strong. The card can bring the holder untold rude treasures. How freaking funny is that? So it looks like this token's about the same price, about 400 to 800, kind of scaled upwards. Looks like there's about 10 contributors to the first round, and then we move over to Doge Party. Oh boy. And please insert D to uncover. That is quite hilarious as well. And it looks like the same price, this one's a little bit less, about 400 to 700, and had about 7 different contributors to it. But between going back and forth to both projects, which one receives more attention from those who maybe stumble across the project?
I would say Modern Relic probably has the greater user base and has more attention. It's kind of what I view as like the primary project, and then Rude Relics is kind of like the redhead stepchild in the corner. Not everybody's looking in that corner over there, so it doesn't really get as much attention. And I don't think the objective is to shine too much of a spotlight on it either. It's like, hey, if this is something you want to participate in or check out, it's here for you. But we're not like really pushing it as hard, I guess. At least that's the approach for now.
Yeah, just went and clicked on a random token that you guys had, and it looks like it was created, the Wake and Bake one, about 9 years ago. So, and just to go down this list, some of the funny ones you hear. So on the counterparty side, you have Herpes, Muff Diver, Pink Taco, Barf, Teabagger, and on the Doge Party side, and this is just a few of them named, Orgasmic, Suicide, Wake and Bake, Booty Bounce, Cleavage, and Dirty Sanchez. Gotta love the internet humor that everyone.
There's quite a bit of internet humor in there, yeah.
So you have a Twitter account for both of these. It looks like, and it's more just kind of like keeping up with the Joneses, just announcing some different types of stuff for these different tokens. What are now the plans moving forward? It's been about a month since this has been launched, and you have, looks like, a handful of community members. You had about 10 different contributors on each one and 40 overall. What's the next steps for this? Is it to passively manage it? Is it to maybe try to hire or onboard more team members? What do you think?
I think that at the moment, we're planning to just keep the thing going as it stands. We have a pretty regular cadence of outreach and communication going with the community and with Twitter. I'd love to see some more, the collectors of ancient assets, take a look at the project, and if they're interested, pick up a collector token or a hardcore token if you're interested in the Rude Relics project, and, participate that way, because essentially, one of the features, I guess, of the project that we want to, support the artists with is being able to distribute the tokens and get good distribution of the monthly tokens through the process that we've established by getting it into the hands of the collectors. And so the idea is to get a really good distribution of these monthly relics that the artists have a stake in, into collectors' hands, and really start to build up kind of a trading and a buying and a selling. We've essentially created like a marketplace on the site, which is really cool. It draws a lot of data directly in from the exchange sites and displays, what's for sale, what's a sub asset underneath each main asset, and what's for sale and who's selling it. And so it kind of creates this whole marketplace for, within the project itself. We might at some point look at creating a wallet similar to like Rare Pepe wallet, for the project itself. That might be a thing that we'll explore. But at the moment, we don't really have like a ton of funding. It just kind of launched, and we're just trying to get this thing off the ground at the moment. So we're kind of like on the early stages of that progress, I would say.
Launching also at the depths of a bear market.
Yeah.
With just limited amount of liquidity. Also, just kind of also just at the beginning, or either at the top of this meme speculative mania that's happening on multiple chains.
Yeah, the timing certainly hasn't been the best, although I have gotten quite a bit of feedback on that why on earth would you try to launch this project right now? And my answer to that is because I love doing it. I've had so much fun building this project. This is not something that's that I have a depth of experience personally with. My partner has been doing this for many years, and I'm fortunate to be working with someone as talented and has as much experience as J-Dog does. It's been an incredible learning experience for me, but for my angle, it's really just been about the learning process of getting into a project like this and being able to launch it, and that's been the best part of it. And I'm not here to make money. It's great if you do, and I'm not gonna stare a gift horse in the mouth, but that's not been the objective of it from the beginning. It's just really to build something cool that nobody else has done before. There's so many aspects of this project, the fact that it's on both Counterparty and Doge Party simultaneously, the fact that we've integrated the sub asset feature on both platforms into the project, the fact that it has 2014 assets that have been rejuvenated, and a number of other, the marketplace build in of the website, that all those things I think make the project unique. And I hope that in time will bring a great deal of value to the project and the assets and the artists that contributed to it, especially early on. So that's kind of where I have my interest in the project and what drives me forward with it. And that's what I'm hoping will attract more and more individuals as we go along.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. It's really just about being persistent in, your objectives and goals and drives, and also kind of just learning. My favorite method to figure something out is trial by fire. Just put yourself out there and, get burnt a few times, whether it's financially or socially, and then adapt to it and be able to make a lot of changes. And so as we close up here towards the end, what would you say is like the main goal of this project? Is it to bring, it's probably multiple of these. Is it to just bring more attention to Doge Party and Counterparty? Is it to better yourself? Is it to maybe bring more attention to maybe your personal profile? Let's look at it maybe 3 years from now. What do you hope to see from these projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the driving forces for me to launch this personally is because I've had so much time spent, and I say so much, it hasn't even been more than a year and a half, but my time spent with Doge Party after the relaunch was really formative. It's been very important to me. It's something I've spent countless hours, and I really truly mean that. I've spent so many personal hours of time working on the foundation and to build and help the Doge Party community grow, that it means something to me. It really is important to me, and I want to see it flourish. And when I saw this opportunity to launch this project as a dual project on both Counterparty, which is very successful and has a very big user base, and to potentially bring in all of these artists and community members from Counterparty into Doge Party via this project, that was really a big objective for me. And that's something I'd really love to see happen, is to have the Doge Party community grow to, maybe never equal size, but a substantial size larger. Perhaps, this is my dream as a result of this project. That would be such a cool outcome from having this project launch on the two platforms together. And that's really been one of the objectives that I've had, aside from some of the other things you said. Yeah, I would love to, have some more exposure and to have it recognized that, I'm somebody that brings some value to the community in general, and to be able to network and with folks like yourself and anyone else that's in the broader crypto art and NFT community, that there's somebody here that brings something to the table that's different. That I'm an organizer, I'm a community builder, and several other personal attributes that I have that perhaps somebody finds valuable, and then I find a way to expand my involvement in the community, whatever form that may take. I don't know, but I'm always got my ear to the ground with things like that. So that's certainly something I'd love to have as a positive outcome.
Well, you're definitely a valuable person of the community. I think everyone who's made it this far into the episode can respect that for sure. So appreciate you for your effort, man. I have a bunch of old Doge Party tokens. I need to get myself into the rare Doge stuff, right? We need to get the visibility on Ethereum. It's a lot of work to go. I think just Doge Party hasn't really had that modernized breakthrough moment similar to what Counterparty had with fake rares, where they brought Vincent Van Gogh and they did that iconic series. I believe it was series 8 with like a lot of the popular NFT artists, which was also kind of in the middle of the bull run, right? Which also helps when attention and finances are just at a speculative high together, right? Creates just a magnitudes of momentum. So here we just build and we wait until that next bull run happens, or the Doge run, right? Whatever it calls. Will Pepe flip Dogecoin? Who knows? But as Dogecoin continues to rise, right, eventually, at least you can one can hope that the next generation doesn't want to participate in their own Ponzi. They want to participate in some of the older Ponzi's, as some of us crypto elders would say. So, Ernest, thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll catch you next time.